So in today's video, I want to talk about the different match types within Google Ads. So we know we've got broad, phrase, and exact. Now, of the three, there's one that I haven't been using for a long time. And I want to explain the reasons why I haven't been using this particular match type. So if we take a step back, we know as Google advertisers that Google has been pushing phrase and exact to be a lot more broader in the way that they're searching for terms. And based off of that, Google has said the reason they're doing this is um, broader broader keywords gives us more searches, which gives us more clicks, and ultimately gives us more conversions, which is fine, which is true to a point. But because we're getting so much more volume, we're seeing a lot more irrelevant money being wasted, which ultimately is putting more money into Google's pocket. So it's just making Google more money, which we know. So there are ways and strategies which I want to explain how we control this to make sure that we don't fall into that trap. And having 10, 15, 20 broad terms in one ad group or one campaign with one ad group is just giving money to Google. We know Google reps jumping on the phone, give a recommendation saying add broad, add broad. We see the recommendations tab on Google saying we recommend broad, 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 broad. We click on those auto replies thinking that we're doing a good job. All we're doing is putting more money into Google's pocket. So we don't want to do that. We want to take control and we want to run the Google ads in the most profitable way we can. So the way that I approach Google ads is when I'm setting out an account, I'll have sort of start with 2, 3, maximum 4 broad in an ad group. From there, as we're getting more information, I'll start adding in terms as exact. Now, the reason that I add in terms as exact is, first of all, I like to use something called dynamic keyword insertion. So for dynamic keyword insertion, this dynamically changes the keyword based on the search term. The search term that we're entering, or the keyword that we're entering needs to be an exact term for this to work, basically. So that's why I do add in search terms as exact. The second reason is with the exact, it's giving you the closest variant of the search term that actually triggered your ad. Now, when you're going from broad to exact, you won't see necessarily as much volume coming through, but when you get that information, it's critical that you get that, and then you can use that because it's giving you the insight to the closest exact word what triggered the ad. And the other thing is also with people who are using search along with like PMAX, if you're adding in the searches as exact, the priority, as Google says, the priority for the exact will go to the search campaign rather than the PMAX campaign. So there's three very, very good valid reasons why we're adding in exact when we're creating our ads within Google. So let me just jump over. I just want to show you some documentation now. Let's jump over to the screen. And I want to explain to you why we use broad as well. So broad gives you signals, which is basically tapping into Google's AI, especially if you've gone from a max clicks to a max conversion strategy. This works very, very well. So having a max conversion strategy, you're tapping into the AI of Google as well as this bit of documentation. So broad is able to leverage unique signals, and this is important, that's not available in phrase or exact. So from here, we can look at the documentation, and from here, we can see both of these use keywords. We know that. Where the broad beats the exact and phrase, it's got a modifier that's 2 or 3 years ago. That's an old match type that we don't use anymore. And landing pages. So it looks at the landing page as well. If you're running broad, keywords in ad groups, it's looking at that. Previous searches as well, it's looking at that signal. Predictive performance, not really interested in that as much because both the exact phrase use that, but user location as well. So let's pick out 1, 2, where we pick out 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 signals that the broad is picking up that the others aren't picking up. So that's why we're using broad. So it's giving you the volume, and the way you control that is by adding negative keywords. So you need to be doing this, 2 or 3 times a week to make sure that you're using AI, you're getting the volume, you're controlling it by adding negative keywords, exclusion lists. You add exclusion lists in before you even start to run the ads. Again, we'll create a video on this because I see a lot of money being wasted. Have 2, 3 broad, maybe 4, budget dependent. And then from there, you're controlling this by doing your search term audits every week. And you're adding in negative keywords, which means you're making sure that your ads are not being seen for irrelevant terms. So you're giving the broad, giving the volume, controlling it with negative keywords, and adding in as exact. And if you're doing that, you've got a nice structure. And this is what's working now in 2025. Now, there is always going to be an exception to the rule. Oh, my account's different. If you've got a niche within a niche, then I would look at potentially just starting off with exact to make sure that the ball doesn't get mixed up with something else. So there are exceptions to the rule, and a niche within a niche, you just need to start off with exact and doing that from there. But a majority of accounts, you would run this structure for a search campaign, which will give you the best results. And I'll explain the reasons why. So the one match that I don't use is phrase. And if I take over an account, another thing that I see, if I take over an account and I see some phrase in there, do I pause them? No. Remember this, that if you take over a Google account, you leave what's working and you pause what isn't. So if you're seeing a phrase or 2 or 3 phrases and they're working, just leave them, but build this structure around what's working. Always work with what you've got rather than starting a new campaign, because you can generally, if you do a little bit often with Google, you can generally get it to work, but it just take a little bit more time. If you start a new campaign, we're going to be strategy learning. So these are the strategies that I use. This is what's working in 2025. Always an exception to the rule. Niche within a niche, start off with exact and then build out lots of exact to get those search terms working. But this is the structure that I'm using. Make sure you're auditing your accounts 2 or 3 times a week, adding negative keywords, exclusion list before you even run a campaign. If you haven't, then negative keywords on a regular basis. If you have any questions, let me know. If you want me to audit your account, just click on the link below and I'm happy to jump in and run through accounts like I've just done.